learn your own emotional states, which allows you to respond to your own emotional states, because a lot of nerds are extremely lonely. And that loneliness makes you desperate for human contact. And that desperation leads you to think, well, maybe if I just get a little closer, and then you cross the boundary, and that shuts shit right the fuck down. I have a pretty decent sex life at this point. I'm trying, thank you. Like, there's very little detail I can give you that doesn't sound like bragging, but I want to emphasize that the response to the sex I have is quite positive because, so I am told, shit, you're good in bed. I haven't been doing it that long. Like, I was a virgin for way too long because I needed to go to therapy. When I got to therapy, I finally started getting laid. When I started getting laid, I started paying attention. And human beings are like cats in that if you're talking about pure physical stimulus with someone who trusts you, reading their responses is very important. When you do that, you get repeat customers. Like happy repeat customers. And you should probably buy a blanket called No More Wet Spot that is waterproof and feels like microfiber, and it is really good. They sell it in Alberta, highly recommend. My point is that the other thing I've heard in my sex life after, yes, oh, you're so good, I'm paraphrasing, but you know what I really enjoy about this? You respect my boundaries really well. So if I say I want to do a thing, you're up for it. And if I say I don't want to do a thing, you don't fucking pester me. Like, you don't say, but can we try it? You don't wait 2 weeks and say, yeah, but do you want it? No. In the middle of fucking, you're still got to be respecting boundaries, and that really, really helps. I have been told that the respect for boundaries that I display is the reason that there are a minimum of 3 and possibly as many as 6 or 7 women who have been at the con this weekend. Again, not to brag, I'm not trying to out anybody, but who have told me they would happily give me a blowjob. Wait. Most of whom have said so in response to rants like this one, where I'm not doing this rant so I get blowjobs. I mean, if I get blowjobs as a result of this rant, more power. Because women are just so fucking tired of being treated like gatekeepers of sex. Guys, women also want to fuck. It's just that. Imagine if, okay, guys, imagine if you were into dudes. You don't have to be, it's okay. But imagine if your preferred sexual partner was a dude. And the only dudes, other than you, in town were 6.5 feet tall and 250 pounds of solid muscle. Okay? In other words, there are maybe 2 guys in this room that could fight them off if they decided to rape them. Okay? So, imagine your dating pool is full, 100%, of people who can force themselves on you if they so choose. Now, imagine about half of them, when they start flirting with you, if you say, no thanks, their response is, oh, come on, and put their hand on your shoulder and say, let me buy you a drink. How did you just feel right then?
Memories.
Right. I'm sorry about that. Content warning, I talk about literally everything horrible. Yeah. So here's the thing. A dude twice your size who can break you with his bare hands and wants to have sex with you, for you to be like, okay, let's do this, you have to trust them. You would have to, as dudes, thinking about that situation, you'd have to be like, no, the minute he sort of went too far, I would be the fuck out. Because what if he decided not to take no as no 20 minutes down the road, or 2 hours, or 4 dates? Guys, the weakest guy here has a 50% chance, roughly, of physically overpowering the strongest woman here. Unless, are there any ladies who do a lot of weightlifting? No? Okay, 50% odds, the weakest guy here. I'm looking at you, Faku panelist. But no, seriously, you take the weakest guy here and you have him fight the strongest girl, 50% odds, he chokes her out and then gets to do, well, obviously wouldn't get to do whatever because we're not going to do that sort of thing here. But physically speaking, guys, be aware that every woman you interact with is aware that it is very likely you have a sexual preference for women, maybe not for them, but for women, and that you can physically overpower them if you chose to. The barrier between them getting raped is either how quickly they can get mace out or your decision to respect boundaries. Which is why the instant you have a conversation that they overhear, or you touch them when they haven't invited it, the instant you cross a small boundary, shit is over. Because what if you don't respect boundaries in 3 dates? The choice, the point at which the safety, pull the D-ring and eject, that's the first time you cross the boundary. So yeah, when you're like, oh, come on, let me buy you a drink, if she's not inviting that touch, you are telling her, I don't respect your boundaries, and her safe option is, nope, fuck, I'm gone. That is why a lot of nerds don't get dates, because nerds are kind of bad at reading social cues, okay? You're laughing because it's true. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. To finish up part 1, the way you learn to read social cues, and speaking as someone who was a virgin until like 37, because there were a lot of reasons, that'll be part 2. But I did not get social cues. I went to therapy and learned how. Because first you learn to recognize your own emotions by maybe doing emotional journaling. That sounds weird and gay. Well, it turns out some dudes like dudes, so that's not a problem. But it sounds like, why would I do that? Okay, here's why. Because once you start journaling, like you sit down at night, you're like, what emotion am I feeling right now? Dissatisfied? Okay, dissatisfied. And you start doing it like maybe on your lunch breaks too. You start to become aware of your own emotions. Then, once you're aware of your own emotions, you can start to sort of decide how you're going to respond to your own emotions. I'm feeling dissatisfied. Well, I could jack off for 2 hours. I could play a video game. What makes me feel less dissatisfied with? Oh, well, I'll do this thing that I know makes me feel less dissatisfied. You're starting to choose your actions in response to your own emotions. That boundary thing, you're the only one that can choose what you do in response to your own emotions, right? Once you've got that, you start recognizing boundaries. And boundaries are the basis of empathy and social interaction, because once you have a boundary, you start seeing other people as people. They're not NPCs. They have just as rich an internal thought life as you do, though probably very different, because it's unlikely they masturbate onto figures. Maybe not in this room. Maybe that's more likely in this room. But that's, right? Once you recognize another person as another agent, you start recognizing they're like, oh, they did this with their eyes and looked away. I do that when I feel uncomfortable. Maybe they're uncomfortable. You start being able to read social cues once you have boundaries and begin to see the other person as another person with their own emotions. Once you can read those social cues and empathize with them, you can start seeing and respecting their boundaries. And once you start respecting other people's boundaries, you stop asking them for blowjobs in the first 5 minutes of conversation. I wish that specific example was not one I had been told this weekend. It's not that rare. It really, okay, a lot of our social anxiety comes out as, I'm just not going to go outside, which turns out reduces the number of people that you meet to give you blowjobs. There are other people who are like, they go outside and they're just like, I want a blowjob. Maybe that person will give me a blowjob. Hey, you want to give me a blowjob? Literally, that's as far as they go.
I feel bad because I actually know someone who would do that.
Yeah, right. It's not rare enough that nobody here knows that. So boundaries are the basis of getting laid, basically. Unless you go for Rohypnol or straight up rape, which, let's be clear, don't. If I catch you doing it, I won't wait for the cops. I will ensure the safety of my friends. So, as I said, guys, because I rant about this so hard and so long, women in the audience here, I'm not saying anybody here is responding this way, but I've had people come up to me and say, your emphasis on respecting boundaries, and then they talk to me, and then it turns out 3 months later that I'm still respecting their boundaries and I wasn't like talking shit in order to get laid. They're like, oh, you really do respect boundaries. And they're like, I'm gonna give you a blowjob. And I'm like, is your husband okay with that? And some of them are like, yes. And I'm like, go away, just go on, just, you need help with the zipper, right? Because I'll finish off a rant I did earlier on about sexual identity. I used to be a virgin, neckbeard, 330-pound Christian fundamentalist. I am now none of those things, which is great, by the way. Those things are not great things to be. Being a virgin is fine, by the way. But the, where was I going with this? I was just remembering being a virgin, 330-pound neckbeard, and I'm like,
Made progress.
I have probably got organ scarring from the amount of jolt I had. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, right, sexual identity. So in the other bit, I was like, sexual identity is bullshit because humans are lazy storytellers. If you're like, oh, I'm bisexual, then, oh, you're the bisexual kid in high school. And 10 years later, people are still like, you're the bisexual kid in high school. Because the label, because we're lazy, becomes the identity. And people are like, oh, you're the bisexual guy. Hey, I know this cute guy you want to date. And you're like, look, I'm bisexual, but I have a partner. Yeah, but I got a cute guy you can date. Like, bisexual doesn't mean poly. It means bisexual. Oh, okay. So do you want to meet this guy or not? Like, fuck off! Right? Or, yeah, I've decided I don't like cock anymore. I'm totally into pussy. And they're like, oh, but you were bisexual. Yeah. But why don't you still like cock? Do you like apple pie? No. Why not? Because it's not to my taste. Bingo! It's like fucking salty glue. Why would I want to put that in my mouth? So, point being that sexual identity is risky because label becomes identity, and that can get ossified, and people start treating you as the gay kid. And then when you decide, maybe I like pussy too, they're like, that's not right, you're gay. Like, telling someone that has identified as gay that they're not allowed to try pussy, or like pussy, or cock, depending on gender, that's exactly like telling a lesbian that she just hasn't had good enough cock yet. Like, people are allowed to like whatever they like, and they're allowed to change what they like, because people change in response to circumstances. So people can be like, I'm gonna try cock this year. And then they can be like, nope, didn't like it. Nope, my tonsils are still sore. And which is why some of my more adventurous friends are like, I'll try everything twice, just in case the first time was bad luck. But yeah, so like my sexual identity is no longer virgin fundamentalist neckbeard, but I don't have what I would call a sexual identity. People are like, oh, so are you gay? I'm like, I am reasonably certain I am not. They're like, are you bi? And I'm like, if someone's pretty enough, because I know like one cosplayer in Edmonton, I'm like, I'd try to fuck him. And he's not trans, he cosplays a lot, and I'm like, I'd give it a shot. He'd have to shave, but I'd try it, right? But other than that, I'm like, on the Kinsey scale, I'm like, right? Because I love pussy. No. That sounded dirtier. Let me put it this way. I love eating pussy. Not better. I strongly prefer women to men. Every guy here, no, I would not have sex with you. Not everyone needs to like, especially not you. So when people ask me like, are you gay or straight or bi, I'm like, I really don't like cock. I just like to have sex with my friends. Like, that's my sexual identity, is I like to have good friends, and if we both want to fuck, that's who I want to fuck. And people are like, you mean you're demisexual? I'm like, no, because I don't think it's made up, but I'm not demisexual. They're like, but you like to have sex with people you know well. And I'm like, yes, and we call that liking to have sex with people you know well. Calling it demisexual is bullshit, because that's not what I am. Because I don't do the identity thing, because I did the identity thing when I was a Christian, because they really like absolute black and white thinking, where you can't change, you can't evolve, and you can't be something in between, which is why fundamentalist Christians have a real problem with transsexuals. They're like, transitioning? That's bullshit. Into what? A woman? No, you're a man, you have to stay a man. Like that's, they can't handle the change idea, that's why that doesn't work. See also my YouTube video, several YouTube videos on that subject. So yeah, sexual identity is bullshit. Hey, who wants to be my friend and possibly fuck? Just to be clear, I do not fuck all my friends. I do not want to fuck all of my friends, but many of the people I want to fuck are friends of mine. The other people are merely very, very attractive, and what I want is not to throw them down, put leather cuffs on them, chain them to my incredibly cool bed, and fuck them until they're unconscious. What I want to do is get to know them as human beings, and then do that. So, as I was saying before, my social media account is, on Instagram, I am apostate_bakes. It is about food, not weed. There are links on apostate_bakes to my YouTube channel where
I know I'll never be the same. Shook my world so hard again. Wish I washed away my sins. He's a dead man walking, blank staring.